Hey, welcome to Wisdom Wednesday. I know it's been a while. My name is Rev Rich, and as always, I'm grateful for you to be here. And I wanted to put a video out because, again, we haven't been here in about 2 weeks. We left you hanging with the book. So we're going to call this message a book break. We hope to return next week as we continue with communion, heaven, and hell. And just to give you a quick synopsis, I think Belinda Carlisle got it right when she wrote the song Heaven is a Place on Earth. But stay tuned for that next week. So with that, as always, make sure you're hitting that bell so that you know when we drop a video like this. And like and subscribe. Make sure you share this out. And share out with everybody all of our videos, especially our Sunday services. Because as we build a spiritual community, the goal is to have like-minded people. Getting together, sharing ideas, growing together. And I think that's the most important part. So as you know, for Sunday, we're doing a summer series on success. And it is a time where normally most churches or most spiritual centers kind of slow down. Summertime, everybody's on vacation, everybody's going out, doing their thing. So we lose some attendance and all that. And that's the beauty of being online, because you could be on the beaches of Hawaii and tuning into this with no problem. But the point here is that we want to continue. So we just ended our series on the 7 spiritual laws of success. I hope you tuned into them. If not, all those episodes are on the website with discussion questions and action steps you can take to put those laws into effect for yourself. This week, we're actually starting a series called Freedom Through Flow. So just a description of the series is, knowing that abundant flow of prosperity in our lives is a good thing for one thing, and one thing only. It gives us the freedom to share our gifts with the world and to have, be, and do that which makes our hearts sing, all which are God ordained. So we talked about this during our 7 series, especially the last law, which is the law of Dharma, is what makes your heart sing, what makes it, what comes easily to you that you can use to service others. So being in the flow of prosperity or the flow of abundance allows us the freedom to do these things. So over the next 4 weeks, we want to look at what may be blocking those things. So if we're struggling to make ends meet, if it's challenging to have time, energy, and focus to live at that level, this month we will take a piercing look at what may be blocking our flow, and we'll be consciously create an opening of floodgates of good. So most importantly, I tell you to join us this Sunday, as we're going to have what's called a ceremony, which is pretty much contemplation, meditation. We're going to have some sound bathing through singing bowls, as well as a lesson that goes along with it for us to really engage into this talk. But I think that what is beautiful is how when we are abundant, we are open to that flow, how things come to you. And to share with you quickly, knowing that I was going to be doing this, starting this series and getting my notes together and things, I plug into what was the first Unity I was introduced to, and that's Unity on the Bay. And Unity on the Bay was introduced to me by give me a moment, Randy Gage, there we go, by Randy Gage, who actually had a CD series called Prosperity. And I remember, and I tell the story often, that I was sitting in my car. I think I was waiting for my wife to come out, and I'm listening to this CD, and he opens up with Charles Fillmore states, it's a sin to be poor. And that caught my attention, and I'm like, where did that come from? And when I started to understand what he was saying, I started to look at Unity, and he had talked about tithing. Now, tithing, I will talk about a little bit, but for me, tithing had always been that taboo talk because of what I saw some things happen as I grew up. But he was talking about tithing to a Unity, which was Unity on the Bay. Now, fast forward, I wanted to know more about Unity, got on their site, found out some of their beliefs, and when I read their beliefs, I said, wait a minute, I can get with this, because this is exactly where I'm at this moment. Found out thinking that a Unity would only be in these big places like Unity on the Bay, who happens to be at Miami, probably New York, California, big places, Texas. Found out there was a Unity 15 minutes from me. So that started my trip to where I'm at now, which is an ordained unity minister. But most important was that I was, watching different unities on YouTube, listening to their lessons, and one young lady who I met months ago, actually years ago, happened to move to Unity on the Bay, and that's Reverend Anna. Now, I met Reverend Anna, just to give you a little backstory, years ago when I became a prayer chaplain trainer. And I was in North Carolina, and I met a reverend who was doing the only English-speaking Unity out in Puerto Rico. She talked to her about me. She started to talk to me, and we were talking about how I wanted to do something in Spanish, but I was never confident in my speaking Spanish because I was born and raised in New York City, and my great-grandmother and I had this, this talking relationship where she would speak to me in Spanish, I would speak to her in English, and we understood each other perfectly. So, it was hard to say whatever, and she kept telling me how, it sounded good and you should go ahead. And, we kind of lost contact. Then came a time where I was asked to pray in Spanish. Now, again, as I said, no, I've never attended a Spanish church. I grew up in a Catholic church, of course, English speaking in New York. And I was asked to pray. And everything every fear came up and said, no, Rich, just make an excuse, and I really didn't have the time to do it. But I said, here's a challenge that I needed to raise up to. I spent a week watching Reverend Anna's videos to kind of get the idioms and all the Spanish way of saying things in Unity. Said a quick 3-minute prayer, and it was done. So then when I was excited when I heard she was moving to Unity on the Bay, because I took a lot of my prosperity classes there. And she gave a talk this Sunday that I can tell you that blew me away. And it was a talk on abundance and the freedom of abundance. And when she said a few things to me, it really opened my eyes. And I wanted to share that with you because I think it's a great opener and a great thing to get you excited about the next 4 weeks. First thing I heard her say was that your abundance is not measured by the material things you have. Now, you know that that's normally how we measure abundance. We look at these rap stars, we look at these movie stars, we look at these rock stars, and we see all the things they're living for, and there's a part of us that wants the same thing. We don't want to put in the work they did, but we want the same thing in status. But then she went on to say we don't measure by the material things, but our ability to give. And that started to awaken a lot of things in me because I remember, people tell me, well, I never want to be a millionaire. But then they're the same people who said, I wish I could, I wish I can do this. And someone once told me that, being a millionaire should not be about the things you can buy, but the things you can do with the money. So then I went on to hear, and if you've been around a Unity or any kind of new thought, any kind of new thought teaching, you'll hear the term God is your source. And she said, well, if God is our source, then our consciousness of God is our supply. That started to wake me up even more because I've been struggling with it myself. Because I know the facts, I know the truth, I know whatever, but it didn't resonate with me. Then that she used, and it was something that Reverend Reverend Jim Rosemurgy usually talks about. And he talks about, being God's wick. So when we look at a candle, if we look at the wax alone we would consider God's source. But we need a wick to get the candle lit. So when we have that, we understand that as we light the wick, God's source is plentiful. It continues to burn. In fact, in my wife's business, one of the candles she sells has a 43-hour burn time. So imagine that candle just going, you wake up, it's still going. And it's the same principle we use here. We say God as source is a never-ending, never ending. Okay? And it continues to give. But to do that, we have to have a consciousness of what is God and how we tap into something that we're never separated from. But to do that, we'd have to have a wick. So every time I light the candle represents, that lit candle is my consciousness knowing that I'm tapping into the supply. But let's just say that we look at that same candle and there's no wick. Well, we know the supply is there, it's inside of everybody, but our consciousness of God is not there. And sometimes we just need to melt that wax a little bit, get through there, and find the wick inside of ourselves. And they go on to talk about how having a long wick and constantly living in that flow. And that's what this month is about. So I really hope you join us for this. And that's what I wanted to do. I didn't want to leave you stranded without a Wisdom Wednesday. I wanted to drop a little bit of knowledge on you, because she goes on, and if you haven't, you can check the last Sunday service at Unity on the Bay and re-listen to her lesson. And she talks about the things that she went to, including agreeing with a friend of hers that said that if I can't prove these principles as a Unity minister, then I'm going to stop being a minister. And that's what caused her to learn these things. And in truth, I know how she feels, because there's been plenty of times that I myself doubted it, and then something happened, or something continued to happen, that brought me to becoming ordained and being where I am right now. And even doing these Sunday lessons and this Wisdom Wednesday and the Truth Talks, Tea Time Truth Talks with my daughter, and the Meditation Mondays, and even now a Contemplative Thursdays, or Thoughtful Thursdays, I call them. These things, I do them out of the love of me and the love of these principles, and knowing that even if I can help one person become the best they can be, then I've done my job. So I truly hope you tap in with us on Sunday. Nothing you really have to do. You'll chant along with us. You'll listen to the stories. You'll engage in meditation, and then listen to the lesson. And there still will be some discussion questions that you can take action on afterwards. And for the next 4 weeks, we're going to be talking about the flow. A great book I can definitely recommend. It's called In the Flow by Reverend Eric Butterworth. I love his teachings. There is so many books out there, so many things for you to learn, and I'm glad that I can be one of those steps in your journey. As always, we say at Unity that we don't have all the answers, but we're here to help you with tools to help you find your own. So with that, I'm not going to hold you too long. Next week, we hope to return with our book series. So if you haven't done so, get the book Alternatives, as well as read the chapters on communion, heaven and hell, and we'll discuss it between me, my wife, and my daughter next week. So with that, as always, I love you. Nothing you can do about it, and I will see you on our next episode.